Hello, welcome to this video on Johansson reading number 17. And you'll find this in translation, apart from the one, of course, in Rune Johansson's book. There's also the translation by Maurice Walsh, of course not nearly to the same high standard as the Bhikkhu translations, but that's the one we have in translation in the Wisdom Publications series. So here we are. I'll call up the text for you. Tatra puttapada yete samana brahmana evamahansu ahetu apachaya purisassa sanya upajjantipi nirujhantipi aditova te samaparadham tankissa hetu Sahetuhi puttapada sapachaya purisassa sanya upajjantipi nirujhantipi sikha eka sanya upajjati sikha eka sanya nirujhati. Just seen an error. This anusvara before a vowel should be straight. Tatra, literally there, and atra here, tatra there, kutra. Wow. This is one of those not very common cases where we get atra in Pali, that in Sanskrit that remains atra in Pali. You can have both actually. From atra in Sanskrit becomes atra or atta. A-T-T-H-A in Pali. So tatra puttapada, so here or there, it's just like a sentence initiator drawing attention to the fact you were about to make a point. On this point, tatra puttapada, that's his name. Ye te samara brahmana eva mahangsu. Those ye, those, and you can say ye te, those, so which those, sorry, ye te, which those. Ye is the plural, masculine singular plural of your, meaning it's the relative which or who. So ye samara brahmana eva mahangsu, literally, which recluses and Brahmins have said thus, and that is then reflected by the, by the desam, of them error. So, which, and by something of a pluralism, which those Samara Brahmana, recluses and Brahmins have said thus, Desama Paradham, of them error, they are in error. This te could be omitted without altering the meaning. Ye Samara Brahmana evamahangsu desam aparadham. The te is included, it's pleonastic, it's allowed, it doesn't actually add anything to the meaning. So those samana brahmana, recluses and Brahmins, who, ye, evam ahangsu, have said, that's the aorist form, aha, said, ahamsu, plural, third person plural, ahamsu, who have said. So those recluses and monks who have thus said, then open the quote, it's actually opened here in the punctuation, and the quote closes with the T here, that's the close quote of what they've said. So what are they actually saying? What are they quoted as saying? Those recluses and Brahmins who say as follows, Hetu apachaya purisassa sanya upajjantipi nirujhantipi. So purisassa of a person. So the sanya has cognitions or perception, ideas. You see, Johansson translated as ideas here. But the sanya, well, as we know that actually, literally, mostly translated as cognition. In fact, it's cognate with the Latin cognition, sanya, cognoscere, cognition. Not just knowing something as sensory input, but making some sense of it, identifying it. So, upajjanti, nirujjanti. Now, sanya, it's a feminine noun ending in a long a. In Sanskrit, the plural, let me just go to my iPad. Sorry, here we are. These feminines in a long a in Sanskrit, they make the long a with visarga. In Pali, this is the singular, plural. This is the Sanskrit, this is the Pali. So equally long a in Pali, but of course no visarga. So the singular and the plural, talking about the nominative here, look the same in Pali. And of course, in Sanskrit, if you had sanjna in the plural, utpadyante, in Pali, sanya upajjanti, of course that visarga would drop off anyway before the preceding vowel. So in fact, even in Sanskrit, in this position, because of the sandhi, it would look the same as the singular, but you'd know it was a plural because the verb is in the plural form. And that applies to Sanskrit and Pali here. So if you look, sanya upajjanti, it has to be plural. Upajjanti pi, nirujjanti pi. You could have put upajjanti cha, nirujjanti cha. This pi, it's often used in a list of two or more things. I mean, they both arise, upajjanti pi, nirujjanti pi, they both arise and fade away, or both arise and cease. So utpada, paticca samutpada, utpada, upajjati. In Sanskrit, utpadyate, so the Pali, upajjati. So upajjanti, plural, sanya, upajjanti, cognitions arise. Nirujjantipi, upajjantipi, nirujjantipi. They arise and they cease. So this, the sanya, the cognitions, are now qualified by the two adjectives, ahetu and apachaya. Let me get the text back for you. Ahetu and apachaya, causeless and conditionless, unconditional. So let me explain that. So hetu, from the root he, meaning to impel, and the hetu in both in Sanskrit and Pali is an impeller. It's something that impels, therefore causes it, pushes it into being, makes it happen. Make this into a negated adjective, and if something is causeless, without a cause, nothing has caused it to be, it is a hetu. Now in Pali, not in Sanskrit, for a noun or adjective ending in a short u, it makes its nominative plural with a long u. Ehetu. That's why, for example, bhikkhu with a short u at the end, singular, plural is ku. So, ehetu. So that's now a plural adjective agreeing with sanya, the plural sanya. So causeless, the sanya arise. And conditionless. So we have our well-known word pachaya. Put the a in front of it, but you have to double the p in Pali. Why? Because in Sanskrit it is pratyaya. That's what becomes pachaya in Pali. And when you make that negated with an a in Sanskrit, it would be apratyaya. So you've got now this conjunct p-r, which at the beginning of a word would just resolve as pachaya. So pachaya, pratyaya to pachaya. But where it is no longer the beginning of the word, we put another syllable in front of it, here the negating a, then Pali, as it were, recognizes that in the older form of the language, it was this conjunct, a pra. And so that's why the pra then reappears as a double pa, apachaya. So, apachaya. And again, it has become an adjective here. As a noun, it's just pratyaya, pachayo, but apratyaya makes it into, it negates it, but makes it into an adjective, causeless, something that does not have a cause. Sorry, conditionless, I should say, unconditioned. So apratyaya, apachaya, now has to become a plural noun to agree with the plural sanya. So apachaya. That's why you get ahetu apachaya. So these now two adjectives. So causeless, conditionless, purisasasnya uprajanti. Of a person, the cognitions arise. Uprajantipi, nurujantipi. Now the refutation. Aditova. There's some aparadham. New text. Oops, where have we gone? That's it. Aditova. So adi means the beginning, and this is what we might call the adverbial form of the ablative adito, from the beginning, and adito eva, that's the emphatic eva, which just becomes aditova, means right from the very beginning. And I think it's also just another way of saying totally. They're totally wrong. Aditova tesam aparantam. They're totally wrong. But literally, from the beginning, adito, aditova, from the very beginning, tesam aparantam. Tesam, and that's the plural of the te, is the nominative plural, masculine plural, nominative and accusative actually. And tesam is the genitive plural of them. And aparadham, error. So from the very beginning, of them the error is just a way of saying they're wrong right from the outset, from the very start, or they're completely wrong. This aparadham, there's the root. Let's go down here for it. Sorry, I've explained it here. Rad, to succeed or to accomplish. And with the prefix apa, meaning away or off, you kind of unsucceed, you miss it. So you fail, you miss the mark. So in archery, for example, it would be, you'd say aparadhyati in Sanskrit, aparajyati in Pali. And interestingly enough, this idea of missing the mark, the Greek word amartia in the New Testament, which is most commonly translated into English as sin, it actually means just missing the mark, like a marksman who fails to hit the target. That's the original meaning of amartia in Greek. And it's the same imagery, the same kind of concept here. You've got it wrong, you've missed the mark, you haven't succeeded in doing what you should have done. Or alternatively, I suppose you have succeeded in doing what you shouldn't have done. So anyway, aditova aparadham. Aparadha, so aparadha in Sanskrit, which of course has to shorten to aparadha in Pali. Then as an adjective or past participial adjective from aparadha is an adjective meaning wrong, and also offending. And aparad, even in modern Hindi, aparad is an offence. And that's as an adjective in Pali, but not so far as I've seen so far in Sanskrit. The word can also be used as a neuter noun, meaning a failure, an error. So tesam aparadham, of them the error. They are in error. So tankissa hetu. This is one of those slightly odd idiomatic constructions. If you break it down logically, it doesn't quite seem to make sense. So that's the standard way. Literally, that tam kissa, of what, hetu, the cause. You normally expect us to see ko tassa hetu, what is the cause of that? Ko hetu, what cause, tassa, of that. But it is that of which the cause. So if you analyze it, I say word by word, it doesn't quite seem to make sense, but it's just an idiomatic way in Pali, not as far as I've been able to see in Sanskrit. It's just an idiomatic way of saying, why is that in Pali? Tankissa hetu. You often see that in discussions and arguments when something's being explained. You make a proposition, then you say, why is that? Why am I saying that? Tankissa hetu. And this hetu is the same hetu, meaning cause, as the ahetu here. It's that same word, cause. So tankissa and sahetu, with a cause. Tankissa hetu, that's the cause of what, meaning what is the cause of that. So sahetu is the opposite of ahetu. Ahetu, causeless, without a cause. Sahetu, caused, having a cause. And like ahetu, this is now an adjective qualifying sanya in the plural. And so it makes its plural and long, sahetu. I put a note there for where it's to be found in Johansson. So sahetu hi. That's the emphatic. But it's with a cause. Sahetu hi puttapada. Sapachaya. Before we had apachaya, conditionless without condition. Here, sapratyaya, having a condition, with condition, conditioned. And as before, it's an adjective with the long a to agree with sanya. So, sahetu hi puttapada, sapachaya purisasa sanya. O puttapada, a person's cognitions do have a cause. Sahetu hi, just adjectively, with cause, with conditions, sapachaya. Upajantipi, nirujantipi. the text gives the P as part of the same word. It doesn't really matter whether you write it as part of the same word or not. It's the P, it's the shortened form of the Sanskrit api. So upajantipi, nirujantipi, both arise and cease. So uputtapada, buddhisasasanya, again it's the plural here. A person's cognitions, upajantipi, nirujantipi, both arise and cease. Sahetuhi, sapachaya, caused, with cause and with conditions. Sikha eka sanya upajjati, sikha eka sanya nirujjati. Now this is from the root shiksh, meaning to teach, or to study, to be in training. In fact, the root is shish, and a person who is training, a shishya, is a trainee. That sh often became a k in the modern Indian languages, and so where we have the word Sikh, as in the modern Sikhs of India, that's from the same root. It's the shishya, it's the trainees, the disciples of Guru Nanak. So that's the same word. And the verbal noun, one form of the verbal noun, is shiksha, meaning training, which by standard phonetic mutation becomes sikha. So that's the nominative now, sikha. Turn to the iPad. Come on, iPad. Here we are. So Sanskrit shiksha, Pali sikha, training. Now, the instrumental, it's a feminine, with a long R. Instrumental in Sanskrit, the long R is aya, short a, ya a, shaya, by training. In Pali, the aya is reversed to aya. In fact, quite a few. It's the genitive and the ablative and the locative, which are all distinguished in these feminines, are all distinguished in Sanskrit, all become sikhaya in Pali. So by training. Now, next point is by poetic license, you are allowed to drop off the ya for the instrumental, is both the instrumental. So sikha. It's a little bit confusing because that makes it look like the nominative. Sikha upajjati, it arises by training. Yeah, you just have to cope with that. Sanskrit wouldn't allow it. Pali does. Sikhaya. Sikha. So by training, eka sanya upajjati, one cognition arises. Sikha eka sanya nirujjati, one cognition ceases. So you're saying it's by training that cognitions arise and cease by the training that you've had. One can arise because you've been trained to do it. Another one can nirujjati, can cease because of the training that you've had. So I'll read this through once more. Tatra puttapada yete samana brahmana evama hangsu hetu apachaya purisassa sanya upajjantipi nirujjantipi ti aditova tesam aparadham tankissa hetu Sahetu hi puttapada sappachaya purisassa sanya uppajjantipi nirujjantipi. Sikha eka sanya uppajjati, sikha eka sanya nirujjati. And that's it for reading 17.